Welcome back to A Faster Me. This video is brought to you by Building Block Construction. Again, the description will be in the link will be in the description below. And now we are to day 3, the criterium of Valley of the Sun. And I was determined to not let it be a repeat of last year where I just mentally did not show up to race. So I told myself I don't care what happens physically. If I get dropped, it'll be from somewhere in the front of the group, hopefully a breakaway. And so I made sure to get up to the line. I also have my teammate Ashley in the race with me as well.
Yeah, so definitely off to a good start. I don't know if you noticed, but you hit your maximum power right in the first 4 seconds of the race. So yeah, normally you can do more power than that, obviously, but yeah, 611 is what it shows as max power, and you did that right off the line in the first 5 seconds.
And so here I'm just kind of settled in, but I see that there is a rider off the front. And she is a master's rider, and I believe she is the 50 plus and has a leader's jersey. So I made a decision to try to get to her and hopefully, be in an early breakaway. And the the riders there in the front were category 4 riders, and I heard them say, "They're not in our category, let them race." So I was hopeful that if I caught up to her, we would have a good chance.
Yeah, and that's a thing about when you're racing mixed categories is, sometimes if people are aware, they don't have to worry about people that are not in their category. So yeah, it's definitely a good move if you and this Masters rider gets away. I mean, both you guys are Masters riders, but yeah, it's definitely a good move if the Cat 4 Peloton says let them go and you end up sneaking away. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility, and it's something to be conscious of when you're planning your tactics when you're in a mixed field.
So here I let her know, hey, I'm not in your category, so, let's work together. She said, okay, let's make something happen. So I go by her. I'm doing a pretty good effort here. And then at a point, I'm not sure exactly when, if it was before the corner, after the corner, I flicked my elbow and nobody came by. So then I kind of just shut it down again. But hearing the Peloton kind of say, hey, let him go, that will factor into some of my decisions later in the race that were maybe not such great decisions.
Yeah, I think right there too, one thing is you don't have your heart rate monitor. It didn't work today. But I do think also your cadence sometimes was super slow. And unfortunately, we found out after the race that her shifter was broken. She got in a crash in the first race of the season a couple weeks ago, and we had just gotten the bike back that week. And it turns out her right shifter was broken and the rear brake was just locked on. It would come off and on, you can kind of jiggle the shifter and it would loosen up the rear brake for a while, but it was basically a locked rear brake, and that kind of sucks because the cadence was so slow sometimes and your power was so high, you can just tell something was wrong, and it turned out her rear brake was dragging.
And I definitely had no idea that. My brakes did feel a little bit sticky though. So yeah, I think it's lucky that there wasn't something more significant that happened.
Yeah, especially because of how sticky it was. I would have hate to have you high side in a turn, going a fast turn with the rear brake locked in it, ends up sliding and then catching. So yeah, but basically when you press the lever in, the lever would just stay in. And even if you pushed it back out, it would retract on its own. So yeah, it was definitely a situation that could have been worse, but now we're without a bike again because the bike's in the shop.
And there is Ashley to my right, and I think the kits look amazing, and it is easy to pick us out in a race. So I think, again, the kit designs are excellent.
So yeah, a little bit about this course. It's definitely it's, you can see the map up in the top left corner. In California, we have a lot of crits. We have a lot of really fast crits, and typically they're on four corner industrial park crits. And this is definitely not that. It's not super technical, but it is a little bit more technical with some different types of turns, just like this one here in turn one that it seems like people get wrong every so often. But it's still a fast flowing crit. The turns kind of link together pretty well, and it just adds a little bit of variety as well. So, and two big long straightaways. So, definitely not like our cookie cutter crits that we have in California, but it's also very fast and flowing, so it kind of plays out the same way, or you kind of can ride them the same way.
I love the course. I love the variety of cornering. And having a little bit of familiarity doing it last year was nice. The wind also played a factor. It was a crosswind, and here we have a little bit of a tailwind. It is coming from, well, we're turning here. So when we make the right-hand turn, it'll be coming
left side.
It'll be coming from the left, and then as we hit the kind of front straightaway, it's definitely coming from the right. So I was cautious.
A headwind from the right on the front straight, and a tailwind from the left on the back straight here.
Yes, what he said. So I was definitely aware of trying to be in the correct position, which just gives another thing to think about when you're, if you're going to set up to be in good position on the front straightaway, or if you're going to be in, better position with the wind on the back. And here you can see, I think this is a preem lap, but it stretches out pretty good.
Yeah, and you're in good position there too. It looks like you tried to go up front with the attack or the brake a little bit. But yeah, originally you were in good position, and then you kind of got into the wind a little bit, make the effort a little bit harder. But yeah, overall you're at the front of the race, racing aggressively, or assertively. I shouldn't say aggressively, but you're pretty assertive and at the front. So here, I think you could do a better job of drafting here. But yeah, so far so good, and you're kind of doing what you want to do and just trying to push the issue a little bit.
Yeah, so it bunches up a little bit, kind of going into the first corner. I think a lot of people are pretty uncomfortable taking some corners, and that was evident throughout the race and really throughout the weekend. Just, I think, a wide variety of riders, racers, different skill levels. So,
Yeah.
and I heard, just a lot of discussion of how a number of people even not doing the crit or not showing up, not being comfortable racing crits. I believe the lady who was leading by a significant amount in my category did not race. So I don't know if that factored in or if there was other circumstances. But here you see me on the right side moving up pretty easily.
Yeah, again, with the tailwind here, going into what some people call the chicane here, a quick left-right. But yeah, one of the reasons why it bunches up in that turn one is, again, we're talking about concepts. I don't think people have the right concept of how to take corners and what the race line is. There's a crash in your race. I don't know if it's happened already or not, but at some point there's a crash in your race as well. And usually that crash comes from people taking that corner too far in the inside. And if you're familiar with apexes, they take basically an early apex. Anytime you take an early apex, it forces you wide. And if riders are taking the proper line and coming across, and then someone tries to go inside and take the early apex, which is basically a dive bomb, they end up coming across into another rider because they can't hold that angle. And in this course, turn one, it's magnified because you get forced to the outside, and then the turn, it starts to turn to the right. So it's a quick left, and then it, kind of arcs to the right, and that's a recipe for disaster if you're too tight on the inside there.
And it's nice to see the competitor with one leg. You can see her working hard in front of me, and
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, her name is Ashley Jones, I believe. Um, I could double check, I guess, if I whipped out the phone. But yeah, I think her name is Ashley Jones. Um, yeah, so mentioned her in the road race, but yeah, great job. I talked to her a little bit after the TT, and it was just my curiosity because, I used to coach football, and I worked at Azusa Pacific University for a while I coached football. And I remember talking to another athlete that I don't know what's the proper term, but was like an amputee, and just the discussions that I had with her back in the day. She ran track, but so I asked Ashley if she had a full prosthetic that could be rigged like for cycling, and she did say that there are those options, but it's funny because she said that option is a little heavier and it doesn't really benefit as much. It basically just adds weight. So she typically opts to not have that type of option and just has like the shorter leg that she has there.
And you can see it's pretty fast here, and I believe that this is the lap. I'm gonna put a little bit of an attack in just to see if maybe we can get a break to stick. Last year there was breaks in most of the races. The rider who just went up in front of me, I believe, was the category 4 leader, but she kind of flew by. But
Yeah, it's funny to me too because when I was watching the race, talking to people, a lot of people said or thought that this is not a breakaway course. But to me, it's it's a course that does set up for breakaways. Um, you know, sometimes people think breakaways happen or the course makes the breakaway, but riders make the breakaway. And anytime you're in a mixed field like this with varying skill levels, it 100% sets up for a breakaway. But you have to force the action in order to make the breakaway. There's different like fitness levels, there's different skill levels, there's definitely different levels of cornering here, so you can easily get a gap, but the key is you have to get a gap and you have to be with the right group of people to end up putting in the effort working together to stay away in a breakaway. You can't just ride off the front and think you're going to ride away from people. You have to actually consciously make and establish a breakaway with the right people.
And I found that anytime that there's, like you mentioned, the varying types of corners, that's a great way to put some distance between you and the field. And I've noticed just kind of watching a lot of the corners that we do, there's kind of multiple lines, there's a lot of movement, sometimes multiple inputs. And it actually looks a little scarier watching it on the video than it does racing. Just out there, it's, you can tell that there's some nerves, but I think I have a little bit more comfort in, just I've grown, and so I'm not as worried about kind of bumping. There was a rider who kind of came in between and bumped my handlebars at one point during this race, but it really isn't that big of a deal. It didn't cause, too much problems.
And honestly, crashing sucks. Everybody knows that crashing sucks. But to be honest with you, it is a part of the sport. It's an unfortunate part of the sport, but it really is part of the sport. I think I mentioned it before. Almost everyone has crashed either in a road race or a group ride. And as you can see here, Ellen puts a huge effort on to try to get off the front here. What were your thoughts here?
Well, just trying to kind of maybe establish a break. I was hoping that people would see I was in a different category, maybe let me go, or maybe a couple people would go with me. And I attacked from, decently.
Yeah, it was a good position.
Kind of far back in the field. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but taking people by surprise, I hope.
If you don't know what you're trying to say, that's a problem. Because we definitely don't know what you're trying to say. So somebody needs to know what you're trying to say.
Past my bedtime. We should do this in the morning. No.
Yeah. No, but it was a good attack because what people often do, especially people that are newer to racing, is they try to ride hard from the front and everybody will just sit in your draft. You need a little bit of a sneak attack. You need to come from a little bit further back in the field, usually somewhere between like 5th to 8th place, to get a little momentum and sneak attack people.
And this corner is where the crash happens because I could hear it behind me. So I think there was some effort.
Right about now, you could hear the crash.
And then we will get neutralized.
Yeah, and when you came by, I remember this. When you came by, you had like a 3-second gap or so, but by the time you went into turn one, it was down to about 1 second. So the field was running you down and trying to, stay attached. And as you can see, there goes people coming by you now.
Mm-hmm. So now I was just focused on trying to get back in and recover from that effort. So and here Ashley comes by, and I was so grateful to have a wheel to kind of get on her wheel and try to recover.
Yeah, and I know I heard a couple of the ladies talking after the race, or not, yeah, basically after the race when we were waiting for the podium ceremony. But I know people are trying to build some teams and get some coaching and different things going. And, I don't claim to be someone special, but I am a certified USA cycling coach. And if anyone wants to reach out and talk about some of the concepts or to go over something online, we can do it virtually or whatever if you're not in California. But I'd definitely be more than happy to help out, especially talking about concepts, race lines, things like that, what different apexes are. If you need me to explain all the apexes and how they play into racing, that would be great as well. Just trying to kind of advance the sport a little bit and get everyone educated on things we should know before we start racing. But unfortunately, there's really no organization teaching it, universally in cycling. So yeah, I'd be definitely willing to help if anyone ever wants to have a conversation. Just reach out to us on Instagram at A Faster Me.
And you're going to see as we come across the start-finish line, there's going to be an official out neutralizing the race because the rider is still down in turn one. And she, was sitting up, but definitely appeared to be hurt.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, a couple people went down. If just going by memory, I believe a couple people went down here.
There were some questions kind of being asked in the field of how long are we neutral? Are we racing again? And I did say I believe it's until the rider is up, but who am I? I'm not sure.
Yeah, usually the official on the motorcycle would tell you when it's on again. And you can see the motorcycles right there just barely in front of the peloton. So you're still neutralized at this point. I think they try to slow it down and try to see if the rider's able to get up or if they're going to need to bring in, any type of medical staff to assist or not.
And I believe that there was some people who, got caught behind the crash and they didn't know that we were neutralized. I heard of at least one or two people talking that they were able to catch up during this time to the group.
Yeah, what's weird about that is, I wouldn't say weird, I guess it's just no way to regulate it a little bit. Is there were a number of ladies that were kind of dropped and it was really stretched out, and there was a couple smaller groups, like a group of 2, a group of 3, stuff like that were really strung out behind the main peloton. But when it got neutralized, some of the girls joined back into the front peloton, and then the girls that were in groups of 2 and 3, stuff like that, they end up forming a second group in the back of like 8 riders or something like that. So, unfortunately, there's no way around it because there's not an official like all throughout the course. There's basically just a lead motorcycle and a trail motorcycle. But in general, when you normally neutralize, there's no making up spots. So you really can't join the person in front of you when it's neutralized. If they had a 3-second gap, they technically should still have a 3-second gap when the racing starts again. So I think you guys are just about back racing again now.
As we come around to the front straightaway, I think again the motorcycle says, race on, and then the officials are saying that there's 4 laps to go. So it would have been nice to have heart rate during the race. I think it's always nice to see those statistics because perceived effort and sometimes what you're actually doing are not the same, but it just wasn't working. But this was a pretty good recovery, so I knew it was going to be a fast ending to the race with 4 laps to go.
Yeah, still seems pretty chill right here. So maybe the motorcycle hasn't released you guys yet. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they
there it
released it.
goes. So you can see your power spikes a little bit and everyone speeds up right here as you cross the finish line. So yeah, anytime it gets neutralized like this, it's kind of like a new race because whatever happened before this kind of doesn't matter for the most part, and now you basically are down to a 4-lap race here.
And everyone got that break. So everyone has a little bit of, freshness in their legs or, new zest for what's happening, maybe a new game plan.
Yeah, it's really basically an 8-minute race now. I think your race overall was 30 minutes. So you're really just down to basically a little over 8 minutes. I think it was about 2 laps. You guys are going probably a little bit longer than 2 minutes per lap. So yeah, I mean, it's basically just an 8-minute sprint. Yeah, and I think here on the backside, it's usually like the fastest part of the course here. I've seen, multiple races, and of course when I raced it as well. Like you're easily sometimes over 30 miles per hour here on this back straight, and it's a tailwind. So, even though it's not the start finish line or whatever, usually the highest speed is kind of here, and this last turn is, or the next turn, the next right hand turn is kind of the highest speed turn as well. Yeah, so now I think you're going into 3 laps to go. What were you thinking, like just going in with 3 laps to go?
Well, I was kind of playing games with myself because I didn't know if I wanted to sit in. If it was fast, I was going to sit in, but if it slowed down, I was thinking maybe I can try another attack and maybe they'll let me go because I hadn't seen anybody for a while that was in my category. So I was kind of going back and forth with that in my mind of if I should try another move and hopefully not have people worry about me because I'm not in their category.
Yeah, and of course we've talked about it. You see a little wobbling there on the inside, but see if you saw the 2 girls that were kind of wobbling and almost kind of made contact, they're way too tight in there for that type of turn. So anyway, yeah, when there's like 3 laps to go, in my opinion, unless you really know your like 1-minute power, 2-minute power, 5-minute power, stuff like that, and if you're really good at those type of efforts, I think with 3 laps to go, it's basically 6 minutes or a little less than 6 minutes. I think you already know now it's going to come down to a sprint. Like no one's going to be in a breakaway from here. So for me, it's just stay in position and save your energy time now. Because it's more than likely, it's like 99.9% chance that there's going to be a sprint finish now.
And that is absolutely what I should have done. You will see that is not what I do.
Yeah, and it's okay. I mean, you're racing your bike, so we're all gonna get it wrong sometime, and that's how you learn. It's not really a negative thing to get it wrong because you don't know what works until you try it, And for me, I just know, like, in general, if it's coming down to a sprint, it just is what it is at that point. So, but I think going, trying to attack or going off the front, especially if you're not a sprinter, that is a very smart move because too many people wait for a sprint knowing that they cannot sprint and they have no chance to win. So it really doesn't make a difference if you come in 15th or 30th. If your best chance is, in a breakaway, then just go for it. Sometimes you may make it, and you may not. But at least you gave yourself a chance and you played to your strength and not to your weaknesses.
I think it's real interesting that my max power was 611 at the beginning, and I think in the road race the day before, my max power was well over 700 at the end of the race. And here is my attack, 500 watts. I'm hoping the field just lets me go, and I have about, 4 minutes left.
Yeah, I was screaming, no, right there when you went. I was like, there's only 2 laps. You're not going to have energy left for a sprint now that you go. And I'm like, and there's 2 laps to go, so no one's going to let you go. All the girls are going to be like, oh, yeah, there's only 2 laps. Let's chase her, No one's going to let you go. So I was just like, no. What are you doing? I was like, does she really think she's going to go on like a 5-minute effort right here and the girls are going to let her?
It was delusional, thinking that they would say, let her go, and they'd be racing a different race.
Yeah, and I know, of course, because, obviously she's my wife and I coach her as well. So I know Ellen does have a decent sprint and, she can hit just about 800 watts, So I knew if she saved a little energy, she'd have a good chance in the sprint at the end, at least for her best finish or to give her a chance, to play to her strengths a little bit. But yeah, going off the front with only 2 laps to go, no one's going to let you get away. Everybody's antsy, everybody's waiting. And you can see now you go from first to like 21st,
And here is my competition, 371, which...
oh, yeah, she's gone.
I was like... I hadn't seen her in a while. I didn't know what happened, and she had got caught kind of behind the crash. So I'm going to kind of get back up, and I'm delusional thinking, okay, I can just sit here and recover and be ready to sprint in 1 lap. But it's delusional. You can't do that kind of effort 2 laps before and think that you're going to have any kind of legs left for a sprint. But at this point, I'm really thinking I can sit in and recover and be okay.
Yeah, and technically you can recover a little bit, but yeah, being that you gave the effort and everyone else did not, at least even the girls, even though they chased you, half of them are still drafting and giving less effort than you were doing out front, pushing your own wind. And of course you may recover a little bit, but you're not going to have much pop after trying to break away.
It is so true. But right here I'm thinking I can.
Yeah, and you're doing a pretty good job of just trying to move back up, get in position. But, it's just going to be fast now from here on. This last lap's going to obviously be fast. So, yeah, I think that's a little thing. But it's a good thing just trying it and figuring out what works and what doesn't. I'm sure in the future you won't go off the front with 2 laps to go. But you never know, Obviously, like I said, you got to try it sometime. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just racing. I think we get caught up too much in what position we finish. It's not really that big of a deal. It's all about competing. Our team is a faster me. My coaching business is a faster me. And that's really all it means is you just want to be a faster version of me. I just want to be a faster version of me. So everybody should just adopt that concept. And that's what they should be working on. Go out there, have fun, test yourself. And most of all, race your bike. Don't be afraid to race your bike. Don't be afraid to make it hard on other people, even though it's hard on you as well. Don't be afraid to attack or counterattack.
And I got to say that I had a lot of fun doing some of those moves. And, that may be more fun to me. I just need some teammates in who can then be there for the finish. But that may be more fun to me than actually the results at the end and kind of sitting in. But yeah, I think the tactics and some of that is a lot more fun. And here I'm realizing I'm doing, a sprint because I know I need to get back up to that front group, but I really don't have much left. So, and then, I'm going to blame it all on my brake being stuck. But,
Yeah.
but it definitely, played in, but no, that wasn't the reason I was this dead.
Yeah. And I don't know, is that Siobhan next to you right there?
No, she's
that's
in the
not.
Cat 3 race.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, same kid, I think, but different team. I mean, same team, but different, completely different race. Sorry about that.
And Ashley said that she was trying to get back up to lead me out, so she's gonna come by me. But she said it was just so hard and fast that she came up to lead me out at the line. So anyway, we're gonna cruise on in here with nothing left. And thanks for sticking with us this whole weekend at Valley of the Sun. And our next race is the Major Motion Hughes Parkway. So
King and queen of the crits. So, see you next week, and hopefully we'll get another video out soon.